Okay, we are recording on the 360 camera. So here is my ride for today, the BMW S1000XR. So these are my impressions of the 2018-19 era BMW S1000XR. It's recently been updated with changes to the gearbox ratios, I think, and the new lovely TFT screen like the GS's and some other models. This is a previous model to that. It's pretty much got the same dashboard and electronic suite as my S1000R. Not identical, but similar. I'll do another thing, hold on. Now, the screen's got two positions. You've got up there and down there, and just in a short 1 mile ride I've done so far, the low screen, low position, created a lot of turbulence for me. So I'm gonna have to, morning! So I have to put it in a high position because there's only two positions, and see how that is, and hopefully it'll be better. Now you might not be able to see much, unfortunately. Hope you can see something. Right, before I head off to work, I'm gonna have to get some fuel because I've only got about 40 miles in the tank, and then that might not be accurate. I've still got a fair bit of turbulence on the helmet, not as much as before. Seems like there's still a bit. Without a doubt, I'm going to be rather late. So my very first impressions when I got it out of the service centre, the BMW Motorrad, is the front end seemed to be a little bit floppy, leaning the bike in at low revs. Remind me a little bit of the R1250R, but not as pronounced. I think you could get used to it, be second nature before long. So it wouldn't be a biggie. When I refueled, I had to disconnect the helmet mic from my smartphone that was doing the recording duties. Unfortunately, when I got back on the bike and reconnected the mic, I made some sort of mistake somewhere along the line and I didn't record any of it. The only audio I have got is from the 360 camera that's on my chest. But I'm pretty sure the microphones on that camera have been damaged by wind blast from previous trips, and the sound quality is terrible. I've tried to keep some of the sounds of the bike in this video, but it's taken a lot of work to try and get even barely acceptable audio out of that 360 camera recording, and it's not really worth the effort of trying to hear the bike. Not unless I'm going fairly slow before the wind kicks in. So what follows are observations I recorded later and added to footage of me enjoying the bike. As I tried to set off from BMW Motorrad, I felt a little bit of resistance from the bike, as if it had hill hold enabled. And I wondered if the bike did have hill hold or not. Turns out this model of bike hasn't got hill hold at all. So since the bike was filthy dirty, I can only presume that there's maybe some surface rust on the discs, and so they bound a little bit and just a little bit sticky. The riding position was very much like an off-road style bike. You sat quite upright, nice wide handlebars, feet pretty much directly below you. All in all, felt very comfortable. The way the seat's designed, it kind of locks you in almost into position. Now, I wasn't too impressed with that, but it might just be a matter of getting used to it. I could move forward a bit, but no, I felt like I could have done with being able to move a bit further back if I wanted to. And the design of the seat stopped that from being possible. As I did start riding away, I've noticed that the gear lever felt a lot more positive than mine. My gear lever honestly feels a little bit sloppy, and I never really investigated it, never really thought about it. I just thought, well, modern gearbox, lightweight internals, it's got gear shift assist and auto blipper. I thought it's got technology attached to it, so therefore I just thought being a little bit soft was kind of par for the course. But the XR, a much nicer gear lever action, so I will investigate that in the near future and see if I can make mine feel as good as the XR did. The seat height of the S1000XR meant that for me, at 5'7" with 32-inch inside leg, the balls of my feet were touching the ground, but there's no way I could flat foot it. As I got riding, the hand deflectors were welcome. They kind of kept most of the wind off, but I felt they could do with being a little bit higher, a little bit taller, so they could keep the wind off the top of my gloves and the top of my fingers. As my fingers wrapped around the bars, kind of went below the handlebars, yeah, they were protected from the wind there. It's just the top of my gloves, just still, on the top of my fingers, still felt cold in the wind. It was about 3 or 4 Celsius, maybe 5 Celsius that morning. When the bike's in slow traffic, or when you're moving at slow speeds and you're not steering or just bolt upright moving at slow speeds, the bike's got very nice balance. I noticed the handlebars were quite tingly. This bike throughout its life has been plagued with complaints about vibrations through the handlebars. The bike, I think, was refreshed in, I think, 2017, and they added some rubber to the handlebar mounts. The feedback is from people that that's been only a partial success, and certainly the handlebars were quite a bit more tingly on this bike than my bike. Having said that, this bike had 3,500 miles on the clock. Mine's only got 500, so you never know. If I'm unlucky, mine might end up feeling like that. But no, I think the XR's got a bit of a reputation for tingly handlebars, so I guess this is pretty standard for the bike. So the screen probably shouldn't be adjusted on the move, but it can be if you're careful. One thing that I am very jealous of is the steering lock. The steering lock is awesome. you know, dirt bike style steering lock. Probably not as far around as a full-on off-road machine, but compared to my bike, it's like at least twice the lock, or so it feels. My bike steering lock is, I think, a lot like the S1000RR race bike style. The fairing makes the bike easier than my bike to ride fast, because you know, you got more wind protection, certainly less buffeting around the jacket. You do feel more protected in the body area, notwithstanding the buffeting at the top of the helmet that I experienced. But because of the fairing and the overall aerodynamics, it's certainly easier to hold a higher speed on this bike than it is on mine. Certainly easier to get to quite a high speed and maintain that high speed with less fatigue, notwithstanding the helmet buffeting. But I did find that the XR was just a little bit slower to spin through the revs than my bike. It's perceptible, not a whole lot slower, but this bike is heavier than mine. The XR is 228 kilograms officially, fully fueled and ready to ride. And my S1000R is officially 205 kilograms, fully fueled, ready to ride. So the XR is 23 kilograms heavier. And I think you can feel that when you wind the throttle back, when you basically ride the bikes back to back, you can feel that the XR is just carrying a little bit more weight, just a little bit slower to rev through the range. So a couple of issues I had with the bike, really, for me personally, is just this, the seat's a little bit high for my little legs, and I had this issue with the wind buffeting around my crash helmet. Now there are a couple of options available for this bike. You can get a low seat, and you can actually get a lowered chassis, where the suspension range has been reduced. Not entirely sure of how they achieve this low suspension or low chassis mode. But for me, that might, if I was looking for this bike or looking at this bike, that might kill two birds with one stone. The lower seat might take the top of my helmet out of the wind blast, and the lower seat and or lower suspension would make it easier to get my feet on the ground, which will make me more comfortable. The only other issue there will be just the slight perceived performance disadvantage when going up through the box. But you know, the comfort of that bike, and the fact that it's pretty much as fast, if not faster, at cruising speeds because of the improved aerodynamics, it could still be an option. Not that I'm looking for a new bike, but if I had ridden the XR in that sort of configuration and one was available at the right price, I think it could have been a contender. The only downside to that is that I don't think I would have been able to get the handlebars through my side gate. I think the handlebars and the hand deflectors make the whole handlebar setup quite wide, and I think a good couple of inches wider than my side gate entrance. Now you could, you know, twist the handlebars back and forth to try and get the bike through the gate. I could probably manage that, but to have to do that every single time I took the bike in or out the house or in or out the garden, I know that would just wind me up before long. If there's any other issues with the bike that I found over time, then the thing with getting in and out of the gate would magnify those problems. And also the issue with the helmet buffeting. Hopefully a lower seat would solve that. But if it didn't solve that, I don't think I'd want the bike. I spent, as you might know if you've seen some of my other videos, I spent a long time trying to solve wind buffeting problems on my Suzuki 1250 Bandit. I went through several screens. I almost want to put my fist through several screens, but I went through several screens trying to solve wind buffeting around my crash helmet. Tried different crash helmets, not a helmet issue. I was just unlucky with my body size and the design of the bike and the design of the fairing. Affects some people, as I've seen on the internet, doesn't affect others. It affected me. I could never solve the wind buffeting issues, and that was one of the nails in the coffin for that bike. I would not want to go through the same thing again with another bike, trying to buy different screens, taking a Dremel or a hacksaw to the screens to try and adjust them and make it work for me. I'm not going there again. If you're in the market for a trail, an off-road styled bike that's capable of big miles, then certainly I would strongly suggest a test ride to see if it works for you, if the comfort works for you. You want to make sure that you're not affected by any wind issues, other than the risk of sharting when you're giving it the berries in third or fourth or fifth gear. So thanks for hanging out with me for this video. I hope you got some use out of it. Thank you to all my subscribers. I'm in the mid-30s now. I haven't been asking very much in my videos to get people to subscribe. This has been happening quite organically. So I haven't started spamming you yet. At some point, when I get the hunger, I start thinking to myself, ooh, let's reach that 100, let's reach that 1000, and etc. I'm going to get a lot more tedious with all the requests for more subscribers. But as it stands, thank you very much. Very much appreciated.